It was one of the best cliffhangers of Marvel's 21 movies thus far. At the end of Avengers: Infinity War, characters started to disintegrate into clouds of ash, literally blown away in the wind. One by one they disappeared, until half of the world's population had vanished with them, like a Marvel version of the Rapture. Only this was no biblical judgment day. It was a holocaust carried out by Thanos, a self-righteous supervillain with a jaw like a locomotive cow spreader. Josh Brolin, so disgusted by humankind he was determined to reset the clock on us, using the catastrophic power of 6 magical gems known as Infinity Stones. Now, finally, we get to see what happens next. Spoiler warning: if you're yet to see Avengers Endgame, be warned, there may be some spoilers beyond this point that you might not want to read. If you want to go in completely fresh, avert your gaze. Avengers Endgame begins, understandably, on a bit of a downer. It's a film that's both mournful and angry, with low-light cinematography that seems to cloak its characters in grey shadow. The surviving Avengers gather to work out what, if anything, can be done to seek justice for the fallen, or even reverse the catastrophe. How will they do it, you wonder? For a few suspenseful minutes you're left wondering if a clever solution awaits, and then someone comes up with that evergreen plot loophole: time travel. Of course. Paint a superhero into a corner and trust a writer to provide them a free pass, usually involving some spurious physics. Anyway, maybe this isn't the point. As the Avengers divide into small groups to travel back in time and seize the Infinity Stones before Thanos gets his hands on them, the film explores themes of grief and nostalgia. On these road trips into the past, and into scenes of previous movies, characters encounter their younger selves, but also parents, children and lovers who have passed. Often, in the most moving of cases, their paths cross only fleetingly with loved ones. Captain America, Chris Evans, spies his sweetheart through an office window. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. meets his father at his own age. The one protracted encounter that has real emotional heft is between Thanos and his daughter Nebula, Karen Gillan, a spectacularly toxic parent-child clash, but overall the constraints of Marvel's simple storytelling conventions don't tend to favor deeper character development. So much is going on in the film there's barely time, anyway. So many characters, so many plotlines. Layer upon layer. By the explosive final act, and it's only a spoiler to reveal how they get there, not that they get there at all, Spider-Man, Tom Holland, is sharing a battlefield with Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson, on her winged horse, and gigantic spaceships are battling armies of African warriors from Wakanda, and frankly it's a miracle the film makes any sense at all. Directing brothers Joseph and Anthony Russo, now on their 4th Marvel film, all written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, have painted a cluttered fresco, but at least their pace is steady, and the obligatory comic moments love in the mix, in particular via the self-deprecating Paul Rudd as Ant-Man and the endearingly goofy Mark Ruffalo as Hulk. Chris Hemsworth is also useful as a gone-to-seed Thor who's been drinking heavily since the last film, though the fact he doesn't meet an earlier, toned version of himself seems like a missed, comic, opportunity. Undoubtedly, however, the film's action sequences have been pruned back to make room. There are only a couple of any note before the major ending, the most memorable featuring an Avenger fighting with his younger self and free-falling through glass stairs. But you have to wait until the second half of the 3-hour film for the full-throttle spectacle. Rocket in Avengers Endgame. By this time, resentment and anger has well and truly boiled over. Endgame explores the rebellion of those forced to submit to the authoritarian moral power of a patriarchal tyrant, and a reaffirmation of Marvel superheroes as symbols of both individualism and human fallibility. And so it is that they eventually appear in their hundreds, a spectacular resurrection from all the corners of the MCU, on a battlefield of apocalyptic dimensions. Coming so soon after Easter, it feels a little biblical, but it's not nearly as powerful. Again, there's little time, even at 3 hours long, to engender any strong emotional attachment if it's not there already. How much you are moved will likely depend on how invested you are in Marvel's various franchises. Certainly the Russos, who are aiming here for the bombast of opera, but settling for the histrionics of hair metal, don't achieve any moments of show-stopping brilliance. In all the noise and spectacle, the predictability of their filmmaking is at best comforting. The close shaves and lucky escapes, the righteous violence and sweet revenge are all underscored by the recurring, bassy thud of explosions and lasers, sending pleasurable low-frequency vibrations into your rib cage. Villains get what's been coming to them, heroes get up off the ropes and land a few direct hits. It's no spoiler to say that success is guaranteed for the good. But it's also true that Endgame holds a few surprises. It's a film that marks a transition phase in the MCU, and certain characters are at the end of their storylines, just as certain actors are at the end of their contracts. There are a couple of genuine curveballs, and to the studio's credit it seems like there's a desire to take the MCU further into the 21st century by pushing into terrain that's less dominated by white men. Naturally, the film takes the opportunity to reach for a few tragedies, though it mostly falls just shy of any reach for the tissues moments. A funeral scene midway through, in which a who's who of Marvel characters gather in golden afternoon sunlight to farewell one of their own, is an example of its failings. You wonder how so much talent, underwritten by such an obscenely large budget, doesn't trigger more pathos. They look like extras in a white sneak video, and it's a pity. Marvel's resurrection fable leaves most of the studio's beloved characters standing, but no one looks to be in particularly good shape.